overseas and on the move. US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the First Watch today, examining the new BOJ guidelines to banks for ABMs. And in the Second Watch, UK Church apologizes for slavery. For our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on various UK churches apologizing for slavery? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp, 876-9973-125. Using hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your response later on in the program, but first, here's I Quote.
All right, good morning, good morning. So today's I Quote says, a lack of compassion can be as vulgar as an excess of tears. And this one is from Lady Violet from Downton Abbey.
Literature, English teacher, Jacob Dyer.
I thought you were saying interesting. No, man, not me at all. But very good piece of literature, though.
Very interesting. Thank you, sir. The First Watch. We'll be back after this break.
Are you ready for another exciting show inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. this Thursday, April 11? Well, Joy V, Sarah, and the Trippy One for another time to recollect and reconnect. Stay tuned for the brain testing mental at 1:45. Then Prayer Blast will be at 2 o'clock as we ring in the prayer bells of heaven. 15 inside pieces of the past, we share with you the history of Port Royal. So come on the journey with us as each and every Thursday we will be highlighting a place in Jamaica. Then at 3 p.m., join us for Music Overload in a Take Me Back style. All this and more will come alive 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. This Throwback Thursday, April 11 on the family station, Love 101. Jesus is. All right. We're going to do a roll call. The Love Jockey is on duty every Saturday inside Youth Connection. Don't miss the hype. Don't miss the tunes. Don't miss the excitement with your boy, DJ Rebirth. Saturdays at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on the family station, Love 101. At 3 p.m., your DJ runs the gospel rhythm. Hot. Tune in at 4 p.m. for a time where we share a word to grow your mind. GYM? Grow your mind? Jim. Get it? Grow your mind. And at 4:30 p.m., we share with you how young people are giving of their time and fulfilling their purpose inside Ministry in Action. We get a taste of poetry and spoken word inside Poetry and Praise. And you get to send us a WhatsApp message and request your favorite gospel song inside Gospel Faves at 5. All this and more every Saturday at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. with your love jock, your boy, DJ Rebirth. It's all here on the family station. Love 101.
Youth Connection. Shuboti and them figured he provide everything on vibe people we chat. Shuboti and them figured him alone make we appear when we did chat. Hey. Shuboti.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. There are said to be 8 standards geared towards addressing long-standing concerns consumers, persons in the public generally, have raised with regard to ABMs and their downtime, the times when they're just not working, or they may not have enough cash, or they run out of cash. The Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, issued these orders on the 2nd day of April of this day of our Lord 2024. It came with a warning, but does this solve the problems with ABMs? Many of us have been completely and totally and utterly frustrated by the problems we have experienced with these ABMs. We have as our guest today, he's a member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern, but I think this morning he's really more here as an advocate for improved banking service. We have heard him speak about bank fees and how onerous they are on members of the public, none other than Mr. Fitz Jackson. Mr. Jackson, good morning to you, sir. Mr. Jackson. We do hope to have Fitz Jackson on. I don't think we are hearing him quite yet. It appears as if he may be having a little issue with connectivity. In the interim, however, whilst we await the arrival of Mr. Jackson, we also have online this morning well-known consumer advocate, another well-known consumer advocate, president of Consumers Intervention Jamaica, Mr. Michael Diamond. Mr. Michael Diamond, are you with us as well? Or are you with us, I should say? We seem to be having a challenge connecting with both of them. I know definitely we ought to be hearing from Mr. Fitz Jackson. I gather we're being joined by Michael Diamond. Michael Diamond, are you hearing us? Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning. Good morning to you and your listeners.
Good morning, Mr. Diamond. Thank you for joining us today. Now, this is such a vexed issue. There is talk of a 9-month period for the institutions, the financial institutions, being the banks, getting their houses in order to comply fully with these standards geared towards improving services to persons who use these ABMs. Persons who have accounts need to use these ABMs, because these days when you open a bank account, you're literally told that yes, you need to have this card and you need to use these ABMs for certain transactions. Is the 9 months enough, or is the 9 months too long, Mr. Diamond?
Well, there is consensus, obviously, that much improvements is needed, especially in the sector dealing with the ABMs.
You sound so polite. The improvement needs to be done now, but let me.
You're
not go on a soapbox.
Yeah, man, because really and truly, as you know, Stokely, that we have seen the long lines, we have seen the frustrations when you pull up to an ABM and you find out that it's either not working or it's out of cash.
It's horrible. Sometimes there's no cash. Sometimes you have to be going from machine to machine. This one doesn't do any deposit, then it does the deposit. You use this machine, it works for this person, and when you go to the machine, it shuts down. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And one of the things that we have to look at is the fact that where it comes down to fees. The fees are not transparent, or it's not conspicuously clear when you're doing your transaction what you're going to be charged, especially if it's a cross-bank transaction as well. So yes, it is welcoming what the BOJ has done, but it's also disheartening to know that any direct deposit taking institution that breach any of these standards that are being put in place, there will be no sanctions. So as an advocate, I'm very concerned that there wouldn't be any sanctions for not upholding these new codes. So
Are they really standards, or are they just some sorts of,
it's almost like it's just it's maybe recommended best practices, but it's certainly not something that will have the financial institutions, hopping to satisfy their customers in any greater ways than what has been happening before. So, it's left to be seen. 9 months is definitely too long, and the no sanction part of this is my greatest concern.
Well, the argument has been, it would appear that, because you have different institutions, different banks, they will be jockeying to compete with each other to ensure that they uphold these standards so that they can continue to do well in the banking sector or do better than their competitors. But one asks the question, is that really, practically speaking, going to matter?
Absolutely not.
You don't
Absolutely
think so?
not.
Why don't
Absolutely not. What we have seen now is that there isn't any significant competition to the point that it gives the consumer such a broad range of choices that they are actually jockeying to get customers. Absolutely not. The fact of the matter is, without a proper regulatory framework that sanctions and imposes fines on breaches, then we're not going to see that level of activity from any of these institutions, right? So again, idealistically, perhaps that's fine, but the reality is that these things have been happening. They're going to continue to happen until we're holding them actually accountable.
Jackson, consumer advocate in the area concerning these financial institutions, the banks in particular. Mr. Jackson, good morning. We know you're also a member of Parliament. We have to remember you are really here advocating for improved banking service. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Stokeley. Good morning, Michael.
How are you, sir?
I am good.
We apologize to Mr. Jackson for the connectivity issue earlier. We have now resolved it. This matter, sir, the 9-month grace period, if I could call it that, to give the banks time to adjust to ensure that they comply with these standards. Your thoughts?
Well, I was listening to a discussion with Michael and yourself, and I said to myself, I don't need to speak because the points that Michael raised, I fully concur with him. First of all, I must say, I welcome the response by the BOJ. Regrettably, it had to take a parliamentary resolution to cause the BOJ to act or to begin to do something. And I say that against the background that I tabled that motion in December because of the loud cries that I have been hearing, and no doubt you and many others have been hearing from Jamaicans right across the country.
Mr. Jackson, you're about to go into some things at the moment, which only because of time, I'm going to ask you to just hold the thought.
Sure.
Please go absolutely nowhere. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
AccuLab Diagnostics Limited, located at ATL Plaza in Montego Bay, for all your blood testing needs. Open every day, including Sundays, 6132714.
The time by AccuLab Diagnostics Limited is
7:15 a.m.
Everyone has a big to-do list nowadays. With this busy schedule, it's easy to forget about yourself. Don't neglect your blood work. Just go for a quick and easy testing with AccuLab Diagnostics Limited. Swift, simple testing, tailored to your timetable. They're open every day, including Sundays, keeping pace with your calendar. Dial 613-2714 for more details. That's 613-2714. Quick results, late hours. Because you matter.
juicy.
and the real party proud. Everybody love. Careful, don't burn up your mouth. Juicy have the best patties. One bag of flavor, them fling panny. Love it, freshly baked, the flaky crust. Baby, full me cut, the gas a bust. Shrimp or veggie patty, whoa. Juicy have the flavor you love. Chicken or plant-based patty, whoa. Juicy have the real patty proud. Juicy have the patty, them Jamaica love. Get it today, island-wide.
Seeking transformation and empowerment, yearning for more for us, longing for full freedom in Him. Join us at the Caribbean Transformation Conference, April 12 to 14, West Stokeley Chapel. Embark on a 3-day journey of empowerment and freedom. Take your tribe of 10 to enjoy a discount. Prepare to be inspired by Steve Goss from England, Seth Brothers from the USA, and Claudette Bennett from Jamaica. Secure your spot now at freedomprize.org or call 876-826-9297. Experience the life-changing encounter you've been craving. Don't you miss it!
I'm using my Sagicor Bank credit card to do all my Easter shopping.
Okay.
All my Easter shopping.
Why are you talking in doubles?
Because this Easter you could win double your spend. Use your Sagicor Bank credit card for all your Easter spending from March 20 to April 12. And you could be one of 3 lucky card holders to win double your spend in cashback.
Double my spend? I'm using Sagicor Bank credit card for all my spending this Easter for the best rewards ever.
Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 15(3) of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch. We're speaking to Fitz Jackson and Michael Diamond. The topic is examining the new BOJ banks for ABMs. Mr. Jackson, just before the break, you are beginning to make some points. Would you please continue? And also, against background, if you would, you are free to indicate what some of these standards are. I see, for example, that one of the standards is that the central bank said that these banks, they are to see to it that at least 90% of the ABMs are working all the time, and those that are operational must be working at least 95% of the time. In addition, machines located in urban or resort areas must not be out of cash for more than 60 consecutive minutes, which I think is too long. But anyway, while the time out of cash for ABMs located in rural areas should be no more than 180 minutes or 3 hours, which I think is too long as well, but it is what it is. It goes on to say a number of other things. Banks must implement board-approved ABM cash risk management policy and procedures, etc. And Mr. Jackson, please continue your thoughts, because
yes, I was making the point that the motion was tabled in response to the outcry from people across the country.
Yeah.
And we have to appreciate something. Over the past recent years, the banks have herded the people out of the banking halls to the ATM machines. So to get your money, you can't get it in the bank, you have to get it at the ATM. So the ATM is not a novelty, it's a necessity, an indispensable necessity for persons to access their cash. Third point, most, if not all, government employees and many private sector employees now get their pay through designated bank accounts.
yes.
So you imagine you're a worker, you earn your salary, and you can't access this because they access those cash from the banks. Right? The money was not deposited into a particular ATM. It was deposited into the bank's account for you to access through their designated access points. And you imagine you earn your salary, a weekly, twice a month paid employee. You people who live from paycheck to paycheck, and you can't get your money to buy groceries, to buy medicines and other essentials because the banks are not providing reliable access to the customers.
And Mr. Jackson, if I could jump in here, when they say that downtime must not be more than 1 hour and or 3 hours respectively, as the case may be, for example, in rural areas, can't be more than 3 hours downtime. Not saying that will be the downtime per se, but for some people, if the downtime is even one half of an hour, it can be devastating.
It can be. But I have a little difficulty. I read that to be a backup, and I want to elaborate on it when I meet with the BOJ at the Economy and Production Committee, because there's a provision for the banks to have minimum level triggers. That is to say, in each machine, they can electronically know what level cash is in it, and therefore have ample time to replenish the account, the machine, to ensure that it doesn't get empty and there is no downtime because of absence of cash.
No, Mr. Jackson, I'm not playing devil's advocate. I would never do that, but I'm going to raise this with you because I've heard this. If one particular machine in a remote location or even somewhere in a town or city is running low on cash, and that is the only machine to be replenished, the argument is that the bank is going to have to send the relevant vehicle and personnel to replenish the cash in that single machine, as opposed to having a series of machines to replenish the cash in relation to at the same time, which in terms of economies of scale is not necessarily viable for them, because if they're going to replenish, say, 10 machines at the same time, that's more economical than going to replenish the cash in only one machine that might be a remote location.
But Stokeley, they can mitigate that, if using the balance level or the level of cash electronic indication that they do have. They don't have to wait until a machine is empty for it to be replenished. A machine to be replenished.
The one machine low on cash is that one machine. The other machines might be fine, but this one machine, they must drive all the way to this place to replenish the cash in that one machine. That's the argument some are making.
No, Stokeley, I remember when we were talking about standards for electricity availability.
Yes.
And there are some areas that are not densely populated.
Yes.
And it might not be economical to service that area. We're going to cut them off altogether. It's a balancing act in every business. There are some locations or some products that give you low return as against others that give you very high return. And you have to balance them out. That's business. It can't be the case that every location must be extremely profitable. You have to factor in service, because it was your machine that ran out, It was the customer's machine. It's yours. And this brings me to a very important point, Stokeley. Well, it's very distressing for me. BOJ has bought into the notion by the banks that banking does not carry any intrinsic service with it. You deposit your money, they use it, make profit, but they have no obligation to provide service. And if you happen to need any service, you ought to pay extra for it. And that extra is in the form of a fee. Every time the customers who deposit their money into these banks have to get any service, here, it's going to cost you more to provide that. You are to provide service. And that's the reason why in the resolution and in the bill before Parliament, we said, as a licensee, there's a minimum level of service that you must provide to every account holder. Minimum, not maximum. Minimum, because you must have service. It can't be the case.
We're arguing that complying with these 8 standards ought to be included in that minimum level of service. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, could you repeat that last point?
Yeah, you would argue that these standards issued by the Bank of Jamaica ought to be amongst, or ought to be, at least these should be part of the minimum level of service.
Indeed. In fact, that is what the requirement is. But
there's no sanction.
Michael amplified that point earlier on. That in the absence of sufficient deterrent, where there's no consequence of breaching, then there's no assurance of compliance.
Mr. Jackson, before we bring back in Michael Diamond, the idea that maybe it is time to divest, well, let me not say divest. It is time to outsource the operations of these ABM machines from the banks to other persons, maybe a third party. So yes, the banks are the ones who have the cash, but the operation of the ABM itself is outsourced to a third party, a business operator who can presumably more efficiently provide that level of service. Your thoughts?
Well, that's where we are from. Well, I would say that that's a bank's call. I wouldn't get into that. The banks are the licensees of the BOJ. They are the ones that the government and people of Jamaica has granted a license to operate the business. And what we're saying is that you must operate your business in such a way that there is a minimum level of service. Now, once you specify what those minimum levels of services are, then you leave it to them to find out, to determine the most economical means of doing that. I wouldn't get into the micromanaging of their business. I would hold them to acceptable standards, put in enough punitive deterrent penalties so that the customers, the deposit holders, when they go to these institutions through their banks, banking hall, through their ATM machine, or any other means that they devise in their judgment is efficient and effective to deliver that service, I'm fine.
Mr. Diamond, where do you think we go from here?
Well, you raise a very valid point, and that point is to enlarge the availability of ABMs, which this has been done in other jurisdictions, and it actually created a sector for private investors to install ATMs at strategic locations. And of course, in their situation, they do charge a fee for making this available to you. So we have to look at the fact that if we are going to solve this problem, we have to solve the problem holistically rather than simply have these recommendations, and not necessarily things that, of course, that will bring a detriment if they're not followed, to basically improve the situation as it is right now. The reality is that we do have to look at the sector again. We have to reinvestigate the fact that they don't need 9 months. They have had this experience for over 50 years. These are not new standards or new actions that the banks are taking. Nothing that has been recommended would actually require the bank to create a new budget.
50 years, Mr. Diamond?
Over 50 years. This is nothing new. ABMs are not yesterday. So the regulation from the Bank of Jamaica.
Experience of Jamaica in particular, I don't think we have been all using ABMs in Jamaica for that length of time. But
it's not necessarily the usage. We're referring to the fact of the regulatory framework is that many of these things are already in place for the banks to do. So when we are just simply highlighting them now and cherry picking 8 of them, it doesn't do anything to solve the problem that consumers are facing on a daily basis. So we have to be more realistic in the approach of how to address this problem. And it definitely will require for us to create a sector where private individuals can get in the business of offering ABMs just as it is in other jurisdictions.
Thank you, Mr. Diamond. And I'm not sure where the echo is coming from, but we apologize to listeners for that. Mr. Jackson, in a second or two, any final word you want to leave with us? Are you going to be meeting with anyone shortly on this? Can you enlighten us?
Yes, the motion requires the BOJ to meet with the Economy and Production Committee that I am now a member of on.
And that will be what date? What date? Do you have a date?
1st of May. 1st of May.
Shortly.
We were trying to get it earlier for the 18th of this month, but the chairman and the government side resisted it.
So we will follow up with you on that, Mr. Jackson. Hopefully we can follow up with you on that because we're completely out of time now.
Sure.
But we have a date to look towards, and we are hoping we can continue this sort of discourse because it needs to be resolved. I want to thank Fitz Jackson and Michael Diamond for being with us as guests in the first watch. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the morning watch.
Anything possible with a little savings in your hand. The time by Jan Bank is
7:30.
8884 Gas Pro. That's the only number you need to know. 8884 Gas Pro. Safety first, that's for sure. We feel it to rise, so when you're ready to light, day or night, the blue flame burns bright. So when you time you need cooking gas, Call Gas Pro and you get it fast. 8884 Gas Pro. Get attached to the one you know. Gas Pro, gas professionals.
Importers. Shipments requiring you to pay customs duties and taxes are cleared on a customs goods declaration known as an IM4 or IMS4. Ask your clearing agent to provide your customs declaration, customs assessment notice, and customs receipt once duties and taxes are paid. Where your clearing agent may not be able to provide the IM4 or IMS4, request your customs goods declaration registration number or C number, which can be used to verify your payments. Importers, request your IM4, IMS4, or C number. It is your right. For details, email the Jamaica Customs Agency at public.relations@jca.gov.jm. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Truth is, HIV affects everyone. Truth is, avoiding care leads to a weaker immune system. That means you could get really sick. The truth is, the hardest pill to swallow isn't the medication. It's the problems that follow when you don't take them. Let's get through this together. Remain in care. You can live life to the fullest with HIV. And that's the truth. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the news sources to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. We have here in the Daily Gleaner, no more secrets, no more secrets. Principal Director of National Integrity Action, NIA, Daniel Archer, is calling for the urgent repeal of the Official Secrets Act, arguing that the more current Protected Disclosures Act or whistleblower legislation cannot succeed. Well, in a nutshell, you can't have the 2 bits of legislation operating at the same time. Reference was made to it as being a colonial era law. We now turn to the Loop News Jamaica. Smoke from Riverton dump prompts health caution. We turn now to the Daily Observer. Tenure of NWC boss in limbo. Mark Barnett still to know fate 6 months after being placed on administrative leave. Those and many other stories in our various news sources. Coming up next, we will read for some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, what are your thoughts on various UK churches apologizing for slavery? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube. Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-9973-125. Using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's time for Small People with Auntie Vashti. That's right, it's the Small People Show with me, Auntie Vashti, every Monday to Friday at 4:30 p.m. Listen up, children, this is our time, and every day we want you in on the great things we are doing inside the Small People Show. We come to have fun. We come to help you through those rough days. We're educational, inspirational, and the Small People Show with Auntie Vashti is taking over the nation. Every child must know that they are special because God created you special. That's the Small People Show with me, Auntie Vashti, Monday to Friday at 4:30 p.m. It's on the family station, Love 101.
With inspiration now. And every afternoon, Small People.
Love 101 invites you to listen to Encounter, presented by the Jamaica Association of Full Gospel Churches, Thursdays at 10 p.m. Every first Thursday, Jamaica House of Prayer with Pastor Harry Walcott. Every second Thursday, Burgess Ministries International with Reverend Dr. Elaine Richards. That's Women of God in Service. Third Thursday, Praise Deliverance Ministry, Senior Pastor Fitzroy Carr. Every fourth Thursday, Reverend Leonie Samuels from Richmond New Testament Church of God in St. Mary. And every fifth Thursday, the New United Bible Way Church of God with Reverend Dr. Jasmine Brown. That's Encounter, presented by the Jamaica Association of Full Gospel Churches, every Thursday at 10 p.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Are you ready for another exciting show inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. this Thursday, April 11? Well, Joy V, Sarah, and the Trippy One for another time to recollect and reconnect. Stay tuned for the brain testing mental-size at 1:45. Then Prayer Blast will be at 2 o'clock as we ring in the prayer bells of heaven. Here with the inside pieces of the past, we share with you the history of Port Royal. So come on the journey with us as each and every Thursday, we will be highlighting a place in Jamaica. Then at 3 p.m., join us for Music Overload in a Take Me Back style. All this and more will come alive 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. This Throwback Thursday, April 11 on the family station, Love 101.
Follow the Ministry of Local.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Now, for responses to our social media question, your responses, the social media question being, what are your thoughts on various UK churches apologizing for slavery? Jacob.
All right, so we do have a response here on our WhatsApp line. Sherry from Spanish Town. She says it's a very complex question with so many speaking about repatriation and compensation in monetary funds. And so many would say because of what was done back then, they need more than an apology. But there are times when it's best we move away from the past. And that's the response from Cherry in Spanish Town.
A very interesting response from Cherry. Well, we go right into the second watch. A 10-member delegation from various church denominations in the United Kingdom are currently on the island of Jamaica to further discover their church's historic involvement in the enslavement of Africans and the issue of human trade. We still have human trafficking today, you know. So, well, unfortunately, slavery is continuing. But in terms of the enslavement of Africans at the time when it did occur, that's what we're focusing on or dealing with today. The 12-day visit by the delegation has been described as part of the journey towards repentance for one of the modern era's most destructive collective sins. Most destructive collective sins. During the visit, dubbed the Ecumenical Pilgrimage for Justice, Reconciliation, and Unity, one of the denominations will present an official apology for slavery. Among other things, we want to understand the genesis of this movement in action and for what does the church have to apologize. We have as our guest at the moment Pastor Bruce Fletcher, member of the National Council for Reparations and convener of Churches Reparations Action Forum, CRAF. Pastor Fletcher, good morning to you.
Good morning, Stokeley. Good to be here again with you.
Now, Pastor Fletcher, what is the genesis of this movement, Visit and Action, CRAF, as the abbreviation is, and who are involved?
Okay, so the genesis is from a good while ago, but I think it really got moving when two of us were placed on the National Council for Reparations.
Two of us meaning?
Reverend Dr. Stephen Jennings.
You mean two members of the church? Two members of the body of Christ?
two members of the church that they're appointed to represent the church on the council.
Yes.
And then we pulled a team together to look at this matter. And there were others who already were involved in this area. Reverend Dr. Colin Cowan, Reverend Dr. Gordon Cowans, and they were already in that vein in terms of working in the whole matter of reparation.
Yes.
And then we added other persons, Dr. Hilary Hicklin, Professor Ann Bailey, Gabriel Hemmings. So those persons together.
We have interviewed Professor. We have interviewed Bailey and Hickling before, I'm sure, on the Morning Watch. Yes.
Right. And last year, we made a visit to the UK. 6 of us, 6 of the principals of craft, and we spoke to different church leaders there. And this is the result of our visit.
But Pastor Fletcher, some persons might say, why is the church apologizing for slavery? And which church are you talking about? And the church would be ordinarily in the business of reaching the lost and evangelism, etc. What would we be apologizing for? Can you elaborate for us?
When we look at the archives in terms of the church, and we'll mention some of the mainline churches that persons would, that were involved in slavery, it is said that we were very central to involvement in slavery, and even
very central,
right? And it was said that we adjusted even the Bible in order. They had a slavery Bible, and so we can't overlook what was done in the past. And I think there are some issues that still remain, not just the destructive element of slavery, which still continues today, but in regards to the church. Can you imagine in the 60s when Jamaicans went up to the UK and they went to churches there and the doors were shut? It indicates
meaning what? Doors were shut, meaning what?
Meaning that the churches there didn't accept persons from the Caribbean, and the Caribbean persons had to form their own churches. And so it indicates that there's something within the context of the church that we need to address. And I think the church is coming to realize that we cannot continue if we represent Christ in this way. Also, I think for me personally,
and the church and some of the churches or Christians own slaves as well, enslaved Africans.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think I come from it from also another perspective, especially seeing what I believe is still racism that operates in the church in the US, that this whole matter should be addressed. And from the Caribbean, I think, even though we might not have
only in the US?
No. Okay. It's evident that it was in the UK and also in the US.
Arguably, Pastor Fletcher, Jamaica has a class issue with churches. Some churches are middle class, not so middle class. That's another conversation, Pastor.
Yeah, that's a different.
We are now upon a break. Can you hold that thought, please? On the other end of the play, on the other end of the break, we will continue this discussion. Please stay with us. We'll take a break now on the Morning Watch.
Follow the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development on Instagram and X at LocalGovJA. The time by the ministry is
7:45 a.m.
Do you operate a business in the manufacturing or agro-processing industry? Sagicor Bank has a loan just for you. Sagicor Bank Manufacturing and Agro-Processing Loan. Borrow up to $50 million with up to 12 years to repay. Financing you can use to retool, expand, improve efficiencies, or gear up for export. Speak with a business banker today. Sagicor Bank Manufacturing and Agro-Processing Loan. Just another way Sagicor Bank is taking care of business. Conditions apply.
Why your love was so strong.
Contagious Worship in Christ production presents Release, the ultimate gospel concert under the theme Release to be Restored. Friday, April 9 at Police Officers Club, 34 Hope Road, Kingston 10. Start time 7 p.m. Featuring Lord Dance Ministry, Praise Academy of Dance, Sean Ennis, Amanda Marshall, Ryker Williams, Orville Sutherland, Prince Saj, and many more. Music by DJ Raymond. Tickets available at SpurOpen.com. That's SPURR.com/release. It's the ultimate worship experience of the decade. Release to be restored. Be there.
If you're a farmer or a fisher folk, this one's for you. Sagicor AgriCare Plan. With AgriCare Plan, you can get affordable insurance coverage for you and your family. Life insurance, health insurance, and the critical illness coverage for as little as $675 every 3 months. Visit your nearest RADA or fisheries office or call 876-936-7785 to apply. Farmers and fisher folks, get the insurance coverage your family deserves today with Sagicor AgriCare Plan. Conditions apply.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch. Very crucial and important topic we're discussing. UK Church apologizes for slavery. Our guest is Pastor Bruce Fletcher, member, National Council for Reparations, and convener, Churches Reparations Action Forum, otherwise called CRAF, C-R-A-F. Pastor Fletcher, just before the break, you're making a very valuable point. Would like to continue your thought. And I'd also like to raise with you going forward as we continue this interview, the discussion, when will the team that is now here from the UK issue this apology, date, place, time, if you can, if you will, and the significance of the apology to Jamaica? Pastor Fletcher.
Okay, thank you again, Stokeley. The apology would be read on Sunday, the 14th at 4 p.m. at Webster.
14th of April? The 14th of April? Okay.
Yes, 14th of April, Webster Memorial.
Sunday coming.
United Church. Sunday coming.
Sunday
at
coming,
4
yeah.
p.m.
4 p.m.
Yes, and I think, yes, it's going to, I believe it's a significant step and start. I believe the church must lead the way. And
do you know if it will be televised or if it will at least be streamed on the internet? It
will also be streamed on internet.
Okay.
And so, but as many persons who can come to witness this historic event, I think it would be great to have many persons coming out.
It would be like a sort of special church service? It
would be a special church service. And so I just think it's an important event for us. The church needs to lead the way, I believe, and set the example in terms of how this process, in terms of not just reparation, but leading to reconciliation. So the church is not just going to apologize. The church is also looking, and that's why we have a team here. They are looking to see what they can do and what they should be doing given their history.
What the churches can do monetarily
and otherwise. So So we have a 7-point plan, and so they are looking at that as well. And we are not just going to have the church from abroad doing something, but we're also going to have local church that also benefited from slavery, providing lands. And that's another discussion. But what we're demonstrating is that the church needs to take action, as you know, in this move. And those churches that benefited from slavery here also, I would say, doing internal reparation.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Pastor Fletcher. Before I ask the next question, go ahead.
So I just think that we as a church can't overlook the past. And I think some of the things, as was said, it still lingers, and we have to do what we ought to do in order to set the example for the wider society.
Pastor Fletcher, when you say the apology will be issued by the churches this Sunday, April 14th, at Webster Memorial United Church, I think you said 4 p.m., sir?
Yes, correct.
Yes. Which churches specifically will be doing the apology, if you can say that? Or will it be just a sort of joint ecumenical apology without naming any specific churches? Because someone could have a church here in Jamaica now. It might be a charismatic type church or an evangelical church, and they may say, this doesn't apply to me because I was never a member of that.
Okay. Yes. So in 2022, the United Reformed Church made an official global apology. And so that apology is going to be read by the moderator of the URC Church out of the UK.
Okay.
And so it is the United Reformed Church that is here.
So that apology will be streamed on the internet and shown at the service, to your knowledge?
Yes.
You said it will be made out of the UK, so the person will stay in the UK.
No, the moderator is here.
Oh, the moderator is here. So the moderator will be doing it in person here in Jamaica. Okay.
Yes.
Continue, Pastor Fletcher.
And so I just think that it's part of a process. It's just the apology is just part of the process, but it is recognizing the evil that was done in the past, our involvement in the past, and also adjusting how we ought to be treating one another. I think that's still a process that we need to work on within the context of the church. Now, one of the things I would say, this is nothing new. When we look at Acts chapter 6, you see where persons were not treated right because they were from a different background, and the leadership of the church made adjustments to make sure that didn't happen again. When we look at Acts chapter 15, where there was the issue between the Jews and the Gentiles, they came together and they looked at what was happening, and they came to what I would call the biblical position, and then made the adjustments within the context of the church. So there have been issues in the church from the beginning, but they were not just they weren't left unaddressed. And so at this point in time, in this period, we cannot leave some of those issues unaddressed. And so as a church, this is part of the process of dealing with ourselves first, and then reaching out to the nation to do likewise.
Just for the benefit of the listeners, I just want to indicate that the church service, yes, to be held this Sunday, April 14th at 4 p.m. at the Webster Memorial Church, Halfway Tree Road in St. Andrew. The sermon is to be delivered by, I want to ensure that I don't mispronounce her name, but it will be delivered by the Bishop of the Methodist Church in Jamaica and President of the Jamaica Council of Churches. Her name is right, Reverend Christine. If you could assist me, Pastor Fletcher, I would be helpful. I'd be grateful. Is it Ben Gucci?
Yes, you're correct. Yeah.
Okay. So I pronounced it correctly. And the pilgrimage to the island, meaning the team that is here now, is a result of a visit of the principals of the church's Reparations Action Forum, of which, sir, you are definitely amongst that forum, from Jamaica to the UK in June 2023. Principal officers of CRAF to the UK included Gabriel Hemmings, as you mentioned, Professor Ann Bailey, Pastor Bruce Fletcher, of course, yourself, sir, Reverend Dr. Gordon Collins, Reverend Dr. Stephen Jennings, and Reverend Dr. Colin Corn, etc. Dr. Hilary Hickling is also a principal member of CRAF. And it continues now. The visit for this period of time, apart from what you're going to be doing on Sunday at the church service, are they going to be going around the island to visit various locations to see what they can do monetarily and otherwise to uplift Jamaica, and in what way specifically? You did mention a 7-point plan, if I think I heard you correctly. Can you elaborate on that before we wrap, sir?
Okay, so I just want to say that we have met with the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Hilary Beckles, and we had a very fruitful discussion. And I think one of the things that the persons on the pilgrimage, the church leaders, were able to hear of the involvement of the church more clearly, even from him. We met with the Minister of Culture, and we also are going to be going to, actually the team is in the rural area today. That's why we don't have any of them on the call this morning. But we're also going to go into our inner city communities in Kingston. So we're going into inner city communities as we show what are some of the challenges that we have in Jamaica, some of which we believe are legacies of the past. And so we want to be able to...
Can you be a little bit specific? Even one, what one legacy might exist?
Well, I think
be more specific.
The challenges of, so for example, health.
Yes.
In terms of the diabetes, in terms of hypertension, and we, as somebody said, in terms of our high diabetes in Barbados, for example, talking about the Caribbean, they are the amputated. They amputate so many persons as a result of diabetes, and we have gotten accustomed.
What would slavery have had to do with that and the church?
Sugar, and you mean and the church? Well, when we talk about slavery, we're not just identifying the church in a specific area.
Okay.
We are talking about the whole matter of slavery and how it was conducted, and the fact that the church was very involved in slavery. And so it's not just isolating areas for the church, because we were part of it in a wholesale way. So so what was just coming back to the question,
yeah,
we are exposing them to different aspects of Jamaica. We're also going to look at the Appleton. They're going to visit there, and so those are some of the things that they're viewing. But they are here to learn, to benefit from what we have to share for them. So there's another group that is here, and they want to they also want to give an apology, but they don't want to give an apology in a vacuum. They are here to learn.
When you say another group of church persons or pastors or clergy?
Right. So we have the Right Reverend Sally Foster Fulton, who is the moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland.
Okay.
And so they are not giving an apology, but they are here to find and to identify what has happened, to learn. And then there's also Mark Strange, who is one of the leaders, who is a Bishop of Moray and is the Primus of the Scottish Anglican Church there. And one of the things that he's doing is coming to see what is happening here. And he says some of his people are afraid of what he might discover in Jamaica and bring back to them, because many of them have benefited from returns of slavery
and continue to benefit from what they inherited as a result of what was taken from our foreparents. We have to leave it there this morning, Pastor Fletcher, because we're completely out of time. I want to thank you for your time and for all that you have shared with us this morning. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you for being with us this morning. All of you listening, join us again next week as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page, and now TikTok at Love 101 FM Jamaica for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app and download it today and stay connected to us, the family station, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica, Love 101 FM. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer Kathy Gale and to our guests. Join Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint next week as he looks at other topical and controversial issues. That will be next week, Tuesday. I am Stokeley Marshall, hanging about Love in the Morning with Chicago.
Thank you for listening to the Morning Watch. The time is now 8 a.m. and you are now invited to listen to Forward in Faith, brought to you by the Portmore New Testament Church of God in Bayside, Portmore.